So take it away, Peter. Thanks.
Thank you. Edge got this edgy appeal. That little big shot by
That makes it even more awesome.
It is, yes. How can I make this go faster? Ideas?
You could run it through one of those sort of works compiler programs like Task or
there are a number of products out there for speeding up AppleSoft programs. This is an AppleSoft program that's running on an emulator locked at 1 megahertz right now. And anybody who spent any time doing AppleSoft program ran into the common problem, it's just too slow for what I want to do. I can't make that, because Mark said that the game is going to make me $1 billion, the world's greatest game, when it's in AppleSoft and this is as fast as it goes. I think a lot of programmers eventually turned to assembly language. That was really the only way to get the performance that a lot of applications needed. But I have another way. Without changing anything, you can make it that fast.
I love that better. Oh yeah.
Much more interesting.
Yeah.
This solution uses a package called Macrosoft. Macrosoft technically is a macro package for an assembler. What that really means is you, the programmer, can write programs that are very similar to AppleSoft basic programs, but then the assembler translates it to machine language for you, and you immediately get a speed increase like you see here. So let's take a look at the ads that originally were in the Nibble magazine for the Minecraft assembler and Macrosoft. I think this does pretty well. These are sold as a package. The assembler package that you see on the left side was an 8-bit assembler with support for ProDOS and DOS 3.3. And then the focus of my presentation is what's on the right here. The thing that allows you to achieve machine language speed without really needing to know machine language while writing AppleSoft-like programs. I think the wizard says it all.
Yep.
So let's start off by stepping back to 1978. You just paid $1,200 for your Apple II. No disk drives. No monitor even. Nothing else. But it's your computer. It's in your house. This is a big deal. All of us have laptops nowadays. You get that this was the beginning of the personal computer revolution. It was something new. There weren't many assemblers out there. There may not be any assemblers. If you wanted to write assembly language, you had to do it by hand. The monitor was your friend, and perhaps your only friend. So, like any normal programmer, you write your own assembler. Why not? What else do you have to do? Of course, it's a labor of love. You spend many, many long hours working on this assembler. At some point you wonder, why didn't I sell it? Thumbing through old issues of magazines and catalogs, there's a lot of programs were created that way. Create something for your own use, and suddenly you realize, hey, look at all these other things that are assembling. I can do this too. Heard Mark yesterday talking about some of those same things. So you've written this assembler, and you start wondering, can I use my assembler to write basic-like programs? There's a feature in many assemblers called macro, which, similar to, say, macros in a word processor, you take many assembly language instructions, package them up, and then with one short, concise command in your assembler, the assembler produces a lot of assembly language. But that really doesn't matter. We'll take a look at Macrosoft in a moment. We'll see what it does. People are going to get pretty excited about any way to make Applesoft Basic faster. Now imagine it's 2010. You still have your original Apple II. Yeah, a few of the numbers don't work, but that's why we use hexadecimal and use some of the letters too. Go for that, I guess. The thing is, the beginning of the Apple II, everything was open for you to see, open for you to explore, and to use the words of the author of Macrosoft again, those are exciting times. All these quotes that I've just had up here come from Mr. Ellen Floater, the original author of Macrosoft and the Assembler. Macrosoft and Assembler were published originally by Mike Harvey for Nibble magazine. If you've read Nibble, you've probably seen the exact ads that I showed you at the beginning. Has anyone used Macrosoft before? Or the Assembler before?
I have.
So this is the story of Ellen Floater. I have a page-long story and history of Macrosoft, the Assembler, how they came to be from Ellen Floater. The entire thing is in the presentation here, so we'll get that on the KansasFest website. I encourage you to read it. It's a fun story, probably one that will be familiar to a lot of us. This is the story. I won't read it now. It's worth taking the time to read. So
Did
let's
you put the story up on the Nibble magazine site?
Pardon?
The Alan Floater, the story of this is on the website now?
No, it is not. I contacted Ellen Floater directly, and he gave me this story.
Oh,
and everything
okay.
you saw in the end of the presentation were quotes from what you're seeing right here.
Right, so you said this was on what website?
It will be part of my presentation slides, and I'll get those on the KansasFest website.
Oh, okay, so you haven't done it yet, okay.
Mike Harvey still sells the Assembler at Macrosoft. They're, I think, $23.95 for the package. I have a few copies for sale as well, but first step is to get the software. It came originally as two 5¼ discs, double-sided. First side was Pro-DOS, second side was DOS 3.3. I think there's something unique there because the software supported both Pro-DOS and DOS 3.3. Also included quite a few examples and 250 some odd pages of manuals. The manuals are really quite good. You can almost learn assembly language with the manuals. Not only are there examples there, but there's cross-references for everything. So let's fire up the software. Let's give it a try. This is the demo I'm going to try to write here with you, but let's move back here. Okay, the projector will catch up. It is all 8-bit software. Again, my emulator is locked at 1 megahertz, just because I think it provides a more authentic feel for what kind of speed up you can get from the software. So this is the main screen for the assembler. It has integrated line editor. So first thing we want to do is start the editor. Press E for that. And the editor has two modes. This is the command mode. In a moment I'll show you the insert mode. And if you press a question mark, you get a list of all the commands that we can use. So there's all the things you wish you had in Applesoft here: reordering lines, cutting, pasting, searching. So let's switch over to insert mode. You can do that by just pressing enter. That's what the exclamation mark is. And every Microsoft program starts off with a couple of boilerplate lines. Every line in Macrosoft, just like line in assembler, has three parts. It starts off with the label column, the command column, and then any operands of the command. So on most lines, we start the line off with a space. First command is going to tell the assembler that we want to write a Macrosoft program. I'm also going to use some high-res graphics in this demo. There's a package as part of Macrosoft for that. Then I have to tell the software that I'm done with all these use statements. The use statements have to be at the beginning, so that's what the somewhat cryptic UEN command is for. And there's also one other command. This tells the assembler to hide all the details of how Macrosoft works inside. I don't really want to see that right now. It's called macro expansion if you're interested.
What does MUL stand for?
I think it maybe macro unlist. That's the documentation. Good question.
Not urgent, just curious.
Certainly. And then the opposite is actually MPL. I don't know what that one is, but a little quick reference doesn't expand the acronym. Yeah, these are examples of the reference material included in the manual, so it's very convenient. Here's the list of the Macrosoft commands. Macrosoft includes high-res, low-res graphics, all the string manipulation, floating point, file I/O, all the things you would probably expect to find from Macrosoft. All right, we're ready to write a Macrosoft program. First line is begin. Just to show you how it's done, I'm going to put a comment on this line as well. Very similar to an assembler. Final column, semicolon, and then put comments here. Doesn't have a spell checker. So let's.
And lead. Yeah, notice you type space after
Yes.
each exclamation point.
Yes, the exclamation point is the prompt. I start every line with a space, and if it's a command. Macrosoft has labels instead of line numbers. If I want to put a label on the line, then I put that in the first column. So first column is label. If I don't want a label on that line, I leave it blank, and immediately after that I start the commands. Let's start off with a basic Hello World program. Everybody probably hates those, but it's a good way of demonstrating the basics of the program.
Hello, Kate.
Yeah, that's even better.
Oh,
Okay.
Limited.
It really is that easy. I just wrote a line in Macrosoft. And in Macrosoft, you have to declare all the variables before you use them. So I'm going to declare a string variable, 40 characters long. You do not get two-dimensional arrays in Microsoft. Easy enough to work around, but if you're coming from AppleSoft, it's easy to take that for granted. You do get
You don't put a dollar sign on the strings.
in some cases you do. In this case, the trailing 40 in parentheses tells it that it's a string, so it doesn't need that. In Macrosoft, many of the commands are type specific, so there's a different variant that you use for working on integers, a different variant you'll use for working on strings, so the type is implied by the command. So you don't need the dollar sign or something like that in there. Just do a nice little prompt. A comma in Macrosoft is similar to the semicolon after a print statement in BASIC. The S input is specifically for strings. Yes, you'll see a few other examples of that.
Input your sin.
Need a larger array for that.
Is Microsoft capitalizing for you, or are you capitalizing?
I have to capitalize. It is case sensitive. All these commands have to be in uppercase, otherwise you'll get rather obscure error messages. That is one of my complaints with Macrosoft. Error messages just aren't very good, and it's pretty difficult to do that because it's built inside of an assembler. Alright, well that's our program. Give this a try and we'll add some high-res graphics to it. And I'll demonstrate how to do a label here. I'm not going to use a label just yet, but with the high-res graphics I will. First column, label starts like that, and then every Macrosoft program needs to enter the cleanup command followed by an action. That's it. And once I made some errors, we'll go ahead and assemble it.
Why does it need a label done?
I don't for this. I don't. I was showing how to do a label.
Oh, okay.
And then in a moment I'll come back and add some code.
Oh, that
uses
you
the
will
label.
use it. Okay.
Yes, I will use it.
Sorry to preempt there.
Right. Escape gets out of the insert mode. And escape again. Get back here. Save it. Assemble it. Yeah, it's 1 megahertz. We can use that.
Is this running off of
Yes. I have emulated 800K floppy setup, 800K disk setup, and it's running on there. It will run on 5 1/4 inch floppies. The manual control section about what files do what and how to set things up to fit on a single floppy. You can't fit the assembler and Macrosoft on a single floppy without the examples. All right, let's go ahead and run it.
Oh. All right.
What did I call it? KansasFest? Yep. The name. Right on.
There's not a lot of overhead either, it's small.
It is pretty small. A lot of the commands translate into ROM calls. There is some overhead involved.
So ROM calls in AppleSoft, or like AppleSoft ROM calls, or in the higher program?
I don't know offhand. I think you use them both. But either way, it's not interpreted, so it's going to be substantially faster.
This is an assembler?
Pardon?
Assembler? This is an assembler?
The Microsoft package is part of the Minecraft assembler, and the Minecraft assembler translates Macrosoft into machine language. If you want, you can ask the assembler to do an expansion for you, a listing file that shows you all the assembly language. So it's also a good way to learn. There are directions included with Microsoft on how to call these routines, integrate these routines with AppleSoft, and you can interleave assembly language in your Microsoft programs.
But it's really, if you're writing in the Microsoft language, it's more of a compiler in that way, in the sense that
Yes. Yes.
All right, but a much better, faster one than easier to work with one than the compilers that take an actual AppleSoft program and convert it to ROM calls.
I think so. I think there's some advantages to
I can
this
already see
approach.
that there are advantages. You don't need to worry about line numbers.
Yeah, it's nice.
Yeah, the line numbers you see here are just for reference in the editor. They're not part of the program. So let's go ahead and insert some code in the middle here. I'm going to insert something at, let's start with line 6, do some high-res graphics. screen. There are some extra commands in Microsoft which are handy. There's the extra commands for, say, handling keyboard input. There's a, for example, the key press command will wait for a key, any key. So you don't need to remember the right peaks and pokes to do that. So there's my box. And how much time do I have left?
You have until 9:30.
What time is it now?
It's about 9:05.
Oh, okay. Then we can do some more exciting things too. Sweet. So let's go ahead and see this box. So escape again to get out of the editor. Let's go ahead and assemble it again.
Interesting how it's showing sequential ASCII in the corner so you know it doesn't crash or die. It's actually doing something.
Yes.
Yeah. The assembler does work on 40 columns as well. There's a separate configuration program for.
Now that first pause, is that just loading the assembler or is it actually assembling for that?
I don't know what it's doing there. I know it does use the RAM disk if it's available. And I don't know if that's loading things into the RAM disk for the assembly or if that's part of the assembly. Good question, though. Program, box. Yay. Waits about a second. And then your name. Thing is four.
Gotta get more creative on your name.
It worked. It worked. Why the error messages?
Pardon?
It worked. Why the error messages?
Where are the error messages? They were.
Yeah.
It said 0 error messages, or 0.
You did? Oh, I
Yes.
see.
Yeah,
I
it
misread
says
the
0,
format.
0, 0 error messages.
Yeah.
We'll go back in a moment.
I'll wait till I wake up.
Well, that's not creative. All right, let's get more creative. Everybody knows that if you write a program that gets your name, you need to do something special if you enter your name. So we'll do that. Okay, back in the editor. I'll list everything I've just entered, and I'm going to come in and insert something after the top of the name. So line 21, it's I-21. And I need to declare myself another string variable. I'm going to set this to a special name. If you enter it, the program will do something special. Whose name should we use? Okay. Oops. I get to use editor. Alright, let's keep going. Sif is the string comparison, or string version of the F. String comparison. Yep. And for inequality, we use the hash symbol, the
Octothorpe.
What is that?
I said Octothorpe.
Oh, yeah, that's a better way to put it.
Yeah. That was all the biggest thing.
Now we get to use the done label that I created earlier. Again, the line numbers and like that. Yes.
Instead of that.
Yes. Some of the commands that have more complicated operands, some of the if statements, some looping statements. a little difficult to get right because there's particular requirements for spacing and commas and period separators.
Does the operator have to be like that, no spaces?
Yes, it does. That's probably my biggest complaint about Macrosoft, that it can get picky in a couple of places about spacing and punctuation, and the error messages you get are often not very helpful. They'll tell you where the problem is, they'll tell you the line the problem is on, but they are. Unlike a modern compiler, it doesn't give you a very descriptive message.
I have no idea what it's hearing. More noise from
There are a lot of examples on the disk with Macrosoft. There's an entire breakout game, for example, in Macrosoft. And the source code to both the basic program and the Macrosoft version of the program you saw at the very beginning are on there as well. So there's plenty of examples you can figure it out. It is a bit of trial and error. All right, let's switch. You enter the right name. Let's switch back to graphics. We need a few, in this case, integer variables. The var command gives us an integer variable.
Just one line.
It should be a 16-bit.
You can't define both of them in one command, right?
No.
Well, more than 16 bits, is that a different variable?
There are floating points. It does 16-bit signed integers and floating points, string, arrays of strings, arrays of floating points, and arrays of integers. Single dimension arrays. And of course, there's loops. Microsoft actually has more looping constructs than Applesoft Basic. Some of the while do loops that are very convenient to have around are in there. We've got, I don't remember what all was in there, but there's a few extra commands that you wish you had in Microsoft Basic that are in Microsoft, which are very helpful. The statements do have else clauses.
Say it says this one.
I think you can nest an else within an if, or an if within an else rather.
Right, but you can't do else if.
Yeah. I'm not seeing the stuff in here right now, but we can look at the manual later. So let's do basic for loop. I'm going to do a nice little pattern on the high-res screen. You can't specify the step for statements. You cannot. No. Let's get ourselves a random number.
Can you artificially increment it by just reassigning the variable?
I have not tried. We probably can. Yeah, after we do this, you're going to try it if we want. So let's get a random number, let's set a random color, and let's draw a line. This program isn't anything special, it just draws a neat pattern on the high-res screen. We'll reward for entering the right name, I guess.
What is that H+ syntax?
Yeah, that's weird.
It is X and Y coordinates of the start of the line, followed by X and Y coordinates at the end of the line. And it looks weird here because I'm swapping the X and Y just to make an interesting pattern. So it's X0, Y0, X1, Y1. And you can't do a next here without specifying the loop variable.
Is that because there's two loop variables, or you could not do it anyway without specifying
Could
it?
not do it anyways. Even if you only have one loop, you have to do next, a space, followed by your loop variable.
Mhm.
Are there limits in the size of the values you can use for the float?
I don't know offhand. There's 16-bit integers, but I assume that's the limit. I haven't tried. After you do that nice pattern, you can pause in there. I'm going to change my length to line 35 and hit pause. Good. Anything else?
Just clean up, go back in your textbook.
It does not, no.
So you're actually gonna get lapidation.
Can you
Yes.
enter, when you execute it, can you enter the code at any line?
Pardon?
If you execute, can you say execute beginning at line 30 or something?
No, execution always starts at the first line.
Okay.
Keep in mind that this gets translated into machine language. So by the time I go and run it, I just
There are no more lines.
Yeah, there's no more lines.
Yeah.
No. The lines here are only shown for convenience of editing, but not because they're part of the program.
Would go to 30 work?
No,
No.
You have to go to a label.
correct.
Okay.
But you can label a line 30.
I'm pretty sure you
You always put
can
no
tell
out.
it started with
Yeah, sometimes they have to.
THIRTY.
We can try it if you want. Let's add
The real question is when it goes back to the
Your Applesoft compilers and actually run from a line.
there. No, that's really.
Well, it's the
I'm gonna get rid of it.
But you can do it.
You just hurt your brain.
I haven't tried assembling it yet.
Yeah.
It will
I
probably
see.
throw it away when I go to
That
assembly.
might barf with an unhelpful error message. Yeah.
Yes. Alright, let's give this a try. See if I made any errors this time.
Quick question.
Yes.
All your line numbers are sequential. What happens if you need to insert a line?
Okay.
That's that
Go
I.
back.
He's already done some of that.
Yeah, where were you?
Oh,
The editor
I know one.
all of
Okay.
these commands. Notice the insert command about a quarter of the way down. There's also some others for searching,
I love that. That's
relocating
so
blocks of
great.
code.
So these can be lowercase.
The commands?
Yeah, because you were, when you
Yes.
inserted, you was I lowercase
Yes.
I.
The commands can be lowercase.
thank you.
So,
That's
Ken's
pretty much
question.
just like everything along with Applesoft.
Yes, it's all the things you really wish you had. So Ken's question was how to insert something. Let's go ahead and insert something right after Hello KFest. So I want to insert it at line 16, and then
You're losing name though, aren't you?
pardon.
Oh,
I have a hard time hearing this editor.
well, this inserts after 16 or it inserts at 16?
It inserts at 16, so it'll
wipe out
it
what's,
makes the new line 16, and pushes everything down.
so it pushes down the existing line 16.
Right.
Yes.
Insert before.
Yes. So take a look at the result right there.
Okay.
So everything else became 17.
Right.
That's why you don't want to fall in love with the line numbers.
Yeah, they're not really line numbers, they're sequence numbers.
Yes, exactly. So you see the result right there.
Delightful. I like the little ASCII progress.
Just to let you know something's happening.
Yeah.
No, it's not bad.
Yeah, but it takes 20, 30 seconds or more to assemble something. You want to know what's going on.
Probably even more if I've been earlier.
Yeah.
And you can use this as a mnemonic if you ever forget the alphabetical order.
With this assembler, is there a list of all the commands somewhere and their definitions?
Absolutely. It comes with a 250 some odd page manual.
250-page manual?
Yes.
All 40 columns. Live reading.
So here's an example of, here's a portion of the manual, the rapid reference section of the manual. Feel free to pass this around and take a look at it if you're interested. And I'll bring up the manual later. But yeah, it says 000 errors.
Ah,
Which is pretty amazing.
It is. I honestly expected to have a few typos.
To have 3 assemblies without anything getting screwed up is...
I should have left the 30.
So, but when they call this an assembler, can you write traditional assembly code in it?
Yes.
In addition to Macrosoft language. What is the Macrosoft language called? Macrosoft?
It's called Macrosoft, yes.
Got it. So you can write in Macrosoft or you could write in a more traditional assembly with codes and operands.
Yes.
what's the assembler? This is part of a given assembler language.
This is part of the Minecraft
Minecraft?
Microsoft package, yes. Remember the ad I showed originally?
And are you either in one mode or the other, or can you mix mix straight assembly code with Macrosoft code?
You can mix them.
That's cool.
When you're writing Microsoft, you are,
You're creating an assembly source code.
yes, the Microsoft lines are technically source code to the assembler.
Right.
The Microsoft package is smart enough to translate those into assembly language for you, so you can interleave assembly language, Microsoft. There's also a whole chapter in the manual on interfacing with BASIC. So this is a great way to write those little add-on routines that you just can't get fast enough in AppleSoft to mix those.
So these, the Macrosoft commands are actually macros in the Minecraft assembler.
Yes.
So the Minecraft assembler must have a really, really good macro system.
Yes, it does. I don't profess to understand how the macro system works, but to be able to pull some of these things off, especially when you start getting into some of the more complicated commands with conditional comparisons and data statements, I'm not quite sure how they manage to parse all those operands and get it to work right. Great. Let's enter someone else's name. Oh, sorry about that. I do. Prop it up a little bit. And next we're going to put on command.
Ah, 3D.
Let's enter the right name. Or the magic name. Now it's up the ceiling. Alright, let open command next time. And that's the little pattern we created with these two nested for loops. Cool.
Wow.
And how much faster would you say that is than writing with the code basic? Like twice as fast, 3 times as fast, 5.5 as fast?
I haven't done this particular program in BASIC. You can go ahead and give it a try right now if you want.
Not necessarily. I was just curious. It's a general sense how much faster our programs run than your basic equivalents.
I don't have an answer to that question. The only thing I can refer back to is the graph demo that I started off with, where we saw the AppleSoft program and then the global Macrosoft program. And
I think it was like 3 or 5 times faster.
Certainly in that order.
So this runs under ProDOS.
ProDOS and DOS 3.3.
Oh, okay.
I assume this
And
is
what-
not support central site.
Well, you wait for it, we can go ahead and reset.
Oh.
You have about 5 minutes.
Okay.
Then we gotta reset.
What emulator are you using?
This is Sweet 16.
Okay.
It is an 8-bit program. I just use Sweet 16 because it runs pretty well on my laptop.
Right.
What else would you like to see? What questions do you have? Yes.
Are there any AppleSoft commands or constructs that are not directly equivalent, or pretty much is the entire set of AppleSoft pretty close to it?
It's pretty close as far as I can tell, with a few useful additions into the command. The biggest difference that I've noticed is you only get single dimension arrays. Easy enough to work around, but that's the only feature I found that didn't work the way I expected. Probably already covered. I point out case matters. It's got to be in uppercase. Go back and try it at a time. I hoped originally, since this is really inside an assembler, that I could interchangeably use different number formats. In most cases, if the manual only shows decimal, decimal only works. I think the macro expansion is doing some sort of string matching. You know, we throw other characters in there, just work so well. You have to declare the variables before the first use. I can't I can't make a one-line Macrosoft program like I could in AppleSoft that can cram a lot of things onto a single line. There's a little bit of overhead there. I already mentioned the two-dimensional arrays. I already talked about line numbers. I think that's one of my more favorite features about this. I'm sure we've all run out of line numbers before in AppleSoft. Everything's labels. I showed one comment over on the right side to show how it was done. You can also do full line comments.
That's all you need. One line. One line of comments.
Oh yeah.
In any program.
Yeah. Just your name.
This is obvious.
Your namespace is great. It took a little bit getting used to use the Octothorpe for the comparisons, but it works. And it takes a little bit of awareness to remember that there are different forms of the commands for some of the different types of variables, and you can't, if you try to use the wrong form for the wrong variable, it gives you, again, odd error messages. But after a few times doing that, you figure it out. And this, again, is the ad we saw at the beginning. Question, would you like to see some more in Microsoft?
Yes. I assume that it looked like it was defaulting to a start address of 2000, but I assume you can have that be whatever you want.
Yes, at the beginning of the program, there's the begin statement. You can change that. Change it right here. I think this is the syntax.
So now it's going to start at decimal 2000.
I think it will be decimal 2000.
That was.
I can't remember if it's decimal or hex, but that's where you enter the address. Because I was thinking another option there, you can separate the code and the data, stick your data somewhere else.
That's nice.
So you can write other macros in Minecraft. And I imagine you can modify this language by rewriting the macros in Minecraft.
Just need to add a use statement to
Absolutely.
macros.
Right. You have the source to the Macrosoft packages right there. Yes.
You've made notations. What's the outputted file?
Pardon?
When you say you made notations, what is the outputted file?
The outputted file.
How do you assemble it? Why did you make notation? Where do the notations show up at except in the editor?
I mean, the comments.
Which notations?
The comments.
The comments.
The comments don't show up in the output at all. They're
They
just
show up in
in
the list there,
editor.
but
Just source code and commentary.
And you gotta do that inside an editor.
Yes, you use this editor right here, you assemble it, and you wind up with machine language, with all the things that are nice to humans but not essential for computers stripped out, and fortunately, comments, all those things go with it.
You should just set a D0.
Okay. Yes, Ken?
2 quick questions. Is there a way to write a program like this in a text editor and then import it?
There is a import command in here. Yeah, there you go. There is a way to import it.
Great. The other question is, you said this is a 2-part package. There's Macrosoft and then there's the assembler.
Yes.
Was the assembler designed to operate independently of Microsoft and do other things? If so, what?
Yes, the assembler came first. It's a full-featured 8-bit assembler, and then Macrosoft came a bit later. I believe that the assembler was originally sold out Macrosoft.
But now it's a single package. But now you get the assembler and
Yes.
Microsoft.
Yes, if you want to use Microsoft, you have to use the assembler. So if you're getting Microsoft, you get the assembler as well.
But you can use the assembler by itself in assembly language.
Absolutely, yes. And there are assembly language examples just using the assembler, nothing with Microsoft on the disk that comes with the assembler.
But when you run Microsoft, you are running the assembler.
Yeah.
Yes.
How well did, do you have any sense of how widely this was used at the time of its release?
I've tried to get a feel for that, and I don't know. I know that the author of Macrosoft, Alan Floater, use it for a couple of programs that he released. I think he mentioned, I had to go back and look at the interview, but there's at least one program he referenced in there. I haven't found any commercial programs that I know for certain were written in Macrosoft. If you know of some, I would like to know about it. By the time...
I mean, there's probably no way to know by looking at the binary.
It'd be difficult. I'd imagine that some of the...
There's common constructs you could easily identify.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
If the begin statement for example, emits
A standard set of
exactly.
stuff at the beginning of the program.
The cleanup macro is probably
scans
really
a floppy for that pattern,
That's right.
and then just scan all of our floppies.
Can you set the assembler using Macrosoft? Can you set the assembler to show the macro expansions?
Absolutely.
In fact, there's a command in there to save down.
Yeah, replace the MUL command with the MPL command.
Right.
It's a great way of learning what's going on. It's a little
Yeah.
overwhelming at first, but I had a request here to turn the listings on so we can see the assembly.
When was this program written?
It was written in
Copyright 87.
87.
Sometime before
but it
that.
was released before that. I
Yeah, that's version 3.1 came out.
Because I was thinking it was rather late to expect it to have any commercial use, right?
Yeah, but it may have been released before.
It
Historically.
was the early 80s. I think I've got it in here.
That ad looks like the early days.
Oh yeah, this one.
And Ellen got his Apple II in 1978.
Spring of 1983 was as the speaking of Boston Apple got Microsoft. So it was out by 1983.
Yes, definitely. I don't have the exact date of release. We could probably go back through some of the old, probably nipple magazines and find the first ad, but it was on the market by 83.
So that was in the middle. Yeah, okay.
You can turn on the macro expansion.
Oh, I see. It's
Oh.
nice that it shows you exactly what assembly corresponds to each line.
And if we turn on
Or which
the
labels.
macro expansion, it will show us even more. It'll show us the opcodes that correspond to everything that's heading.
Now you know why the line numbers don't mean a whole lot. 38, 38, 38.
And then symbol table at the end.
Do you have any sense of the memory efficiency of the assembly? Like, I guess never mind. I was just thinking like how long the program can be.
It takes quite a number of statements.
That's what it looks like. It looked like a single line. It seemed to take quite a few statements.
I've looked at a few of the statements, looked at the assembly generators, and a few of the statements, and some of them look fairly efficient because they basically come down to a round call.
With maybe different features.
Efficient in terms of space.
Right.
Others emit several dozen lines, and I'm not quite sure what they do. I did compare a Hello World program in Macrosoft, just printed Hello World, to a basic one in assembly language in Macrosoft was several times larger. I didn't dig into what it was doing with all those extra lines. I think I spent a fair amount of time setting up variable space and all those things that you can skip over when you're.
It has to set up its own runtime.
Exactly. We get requests to see the macro expansions. Probably get a bit scary, but. Any other questions?
You can get what we used to call core dumps.
No, it's just like any other machine language program in the Apple II. Break into the monitor and look at the memory directly.
Yeah, okay.
Or crash the whole machine.
Dump the core yourself if you want.
You can get a pointer to where it bombed.
Just like any other machine language program, it could lock up the machine, it could drop into the
You get no pointers.
monitor.
Generally, no.
It doesn't tell you bombed at location so and so.
Right, machine language doesn't give you that. So.
How do you use it?
But an assembler might.
And the assembler won't. It'll give you a symbol table. You might be able to hunt down where the problem is,
Yeah.
but you're on your own.
You probably.
The idea.
So then when you're debugging, you end up using a lot of print statements like
You could always get the location.
for various
Plus, probably more
Less.
robust. Probably more robust.
Yeah.
It would be nice. It
We're
would be
all
nice to
running out
celebrate it
of
with you,
mainframe.
but
Yeah,
can't have everything.
Can't have everything. Call Alan. Tell him to get back to work.
Yeah.
I hate to take it up, but we'll have to get ready for the next session. But thank you, Peter.
Yes.
See my